One of the worst, most fake, most corrupt. You know what ABC News? I think it's maybe the most corrupt news organizations on the planet. I think they're terrible. Okay, I don't want any more from ABC.
He's still mad at us for canceling Charlie's Angels back in 1981. Trump is very upset about network news coverage of his war.
When Donald Trump attacks the media, it's nothing new. But Jimmy Kimmel doesn't respond with defense. He responds with ridicule. By joking about Charlie's Angels, Kimmel shrinks a presidential complaint into something petty and personal. The insult isn't treated as serious criticism, it's reframed as a lingering grudge. And that's the pattern. Every time Trump tries to escalate the conflict, Kimmel pulls it back into comedy, where outrage loses its power. Because in late night, authority doesn't come from shouting louder, it comes from who controls the laugh.
Could come back in history and reincarnate and like be able to experience someone else's life, who would you come back in history as?
Maybe Donald Trump right now. I think Donald Trump right now. My life is very exciting.
But a surprise that he would pick himself.
This moment perfectly captures Trump's public persona, self-mythology. When asked to choose anyone in history, he doesn't reach for a past leader or a historical figure. He chooses himself in the present, and Kimmel doesn't need to exaggerate it. He lets the answer sit, then delivers a simple reaction that lands harder than a long monologue. The joke works because it confirms something the audience already suspects, that Trump's worldview revolves almost entirely around Trump. In comedy, recognition is everything. The audience laughs not because it's shocking, but because it feels familiar.
He's been talking very tough for a guy who seems to almost be in a coma right now. Over the weekend, he wrote, "Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. They've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, and now I, as the 47th president, am killing them."
Here, the tone shifts. Kimmel contrasts aggressive, dramatic rhetoric with what he portrays as low-energy delivery. The words are intense, but the presence doesn't match. That gap becomes the joke, because when strong language is paired with weak delivery, it creates a kind of dissonance, and that's where comedy thrives. Kimmel leans into that mismatch, suggesting that the performance of power matters just as much as the words themselves.
He uses his bones to feel things instead of his brain. He's a bonehead through and through. And the answer is he doesn't know when this war is going to be done. The only war Trump had an exit plan for was Vietnam. He's all over the place.
Now the gloves come off. Kimmel moves from subtle mockery to direct insult, turning confusion into caricature. The bonehead line isn't meant to be taken literally. It's meant to create an image of impulsive thinking, of decisions made without reflection. And by referencing Vietnam, Kimmel pulls the past into the present, framing current leadership through old controversies. It's not about proving a point with facts. It's about shaping perception through repetition and imagery.
It's not celebrity Jeopardy, it is serious Jeopardy right now. Just to boil it down, he's threatening to pull the licenses from any news channels whose news he doesn't like. And I, for one, salute him. From now on, these so-called news organizations and talk show hosts should take our cues from real journalists like the fair, balanced, and highly educated YouTuber/stunt boxer Jake Paul.
This is where satire and concern overlap. Kimmel takes a serious idea, pressure on media outlets, and flips it into absurdity by elevating a YouTuber as the model journalist. The joke lands because of how ridiculous it sounds, but it also highlights a deeper tension. What happens when criticism is treated as something to silence instead of something to answer? By exaggerating the alternative, Kimmel makes the original idea feel more extreme.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, the guy's kids had to find out somehow. It might as well have been from the president, you know. Hard to believe this is the same guy who was indicted for storing classified documents in the shower at his country club. And then it was off to Air Force One to deal with the very rude members of the media, one of whom had the audacity to ask the president for his thoughts on 6 Americans who lost their lives in his war.
The segment closes by stacking contradictions. Past controversies meet present responsibility. Serious questions are met with deflection. And once again, Kimmel doesn't need to raise his voice. He just places the facts side by side and lets the contrast speak. Because that's the real strategy behind all of this. Not debate, not persuasion, but framing. Trump presents himself as powerful, decisive, in control. Kimmel presents him as reactive, distracted, and easy to provoke. And in a media landscape where perception often matters more than policy, that framing can be just as powerful as any argument.